Hey everyone, just a quick one here, whilst I've got a minute. Welcome back to my channel, dedicated to musics, plural, in all its forms. And well, I hope you enjoy this quick but hopefully meaningful installment. Um, yeah, I've got a shorter pile of records today for you, but maybe it's a good thing to do a quicker video sometimes. Um, I've been I went to a classical music record fair about two weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Time goes really, and I picked up for $1 each or a couple of dollars each this magnificent trio of record by Pablo Casals. So it's Pablo Casals playing the suites for unaccompanied cello, basically volume 1, 2 and 3, which are local Australian releases on the great World Record Club, which I've spoken about many times on this channel. And so for $1 each, it's pretty much impossible to leave them behind, especially considering the nature of these pieces, which are just timeless. If you've never heard the suite for unaccompanied cello by Bach, I suggest you check those out, or Janos Starker's version, also worthwhile. But I played volume 1 only so far, which has got, it opens with the most famous piece of cello ever, basically. The suite number 1 in G major, which everybody knows, but played with gusto and finesse and absolute, glory by Pablo Casals, who was a Spanish, I think, cellist, one of the greatest of all time. We drop his name in a list that would include people like Rostropovich and Jacqueline Dupre, and a lot of great masters of the instrument. And if you're looking for a current great master of the cello, I encourage you to check out some videos of Sol Gabetta. She's an Argentinian cellist, and check a cello concerto by Saint-Saëns on YouTube. Maybe I'll leave a link, and it's just kind of mind-blowing. Another pickup from the record fair, the classical record fair, was this really cheap Bartok, played by John Ogden and Brenda Lucas, sonata for 2 pianos and percussion, and a piano concerto number 3. Side A, the sonata for 2 pianos and percussion, is absolutely sublime on this. Just really, so lively, so much, so much inventivity in this. I really rate Bartok as really one of the great inventors of music in the 20th century. Really, as a lot of what came after, especially with avant-garde and experimental music, probably is down to this guy, Bela Bartok. And is something that's probably is lesser known. Martinu, I talked about Martinu, I think, in my last video. Bohuslav Martinu, who was a Czechoslovakian or Czech composer. And here we have the wonderful Angelica May, I don't know as she says her name, another amazing cellist, who is she's the soloist on, because the cello concerto is obviously number 1 and 2, and there's on side 4 there's a sonata da camera, so it's a chamber piece, but most of it is really so. With this, it's almost like a beautiful film soundtrack, really, as you imagine them to be, sort of really, you got these moments of elation, of sheer, ecstasy, and there's counterpoints there, and it just goes really quiet and crescendos again into absolute glory and ecstasy. Martinu, check him out. Some modern composition. This is a recent pick up actually. John Adams, Shaker Loops, and Frisian Gates. So Shaker Loops is a piece with violoncello, viola, and bass. So it's kind of like a Kronos quartet type of a thing, where you've got these. This arrangement is played by, here a string septet. I would say there's like four violins, two cellos, a viola, and a bass. So very, very, again, essential kind of music. Really amazing composition. Very impressionistic, really. The side A. Side B is a piano piece, which is a bit more subdued, I would say, Frisian Gates, and probably took me a bit more time to get into. But Shaker Loops, the side A, is a real, minimalist kind of, key work on the same level as anything by Steve Reich or Terry Riley, for all I know. In a different style, but sort of meeting in the middle. Steve Tibbits on ECM, and the album is called Exploded. What's it called? Exploded View. That's what the name of the album is. Which is a 1986 record. I think his second or third album. Beautiful stuff. Very hard to classify this album by Steve Tibbits. I mean, you probably know he's a guitar player, and he's fairly forward-thinking, fairly sort of on the avant tip of guitar playing. And his ensemble comprises bass, tabla, and 3 vocalists, as well as congas, steel drums, percussion, berimbau. And Steve Tibbits plays guitars, kalimba, and tapes, so it gives you an idea of the sorts of sounds that you would find there, but you just really can't really imagine what this sounds like. It's a hodgepodge of very many different styles. It's a little bit jazz, a bit avant-garde, a bit experimental. There's parts of folk in there as well. It's all over the place. Try the opening track, Name Everything, to get a feel for this if you're interested. Next, I spun this little known but really interesting Bill Nelson mini album. If the picture offends you, I'm sorry. I mean, it's just a drawing. I can hold it like this if you want, or you can skip to the next thing, but I don't think it will offend anybody. Special price instrumental mini album includes free poster. Bill Nelson is, to me, one of the greats of his own time period, which is from the sort of late 70s to the late 80s. He released a vast number of records, EPs, whatnot. He was in Bebop Deluxe, and then, for a little bit of time, had an act called Red Noise, which is basically just him and just tweaking in the studio, and then released very, very influential, amazing record for example, The Love That Whirls. And this is kind of a minimal wave record, I would say, a synth wave, minimal wave record. Lots of, studio trickery, lots of synth, a little bit of, saxophone here and there, the usual minimal wave kind of fare, if you know what we're talking about. Very pleasant, nothing earth-shattering, I would say, but it's a lovely record. and that came out in 1980. I don't even know. It's on the Fantastic Cocteau label, which was Bill Nelson's own label. This is a French pressing, actually, from, I don't know, 1983. There you go. So a beautiful little album, mini album, which I would recommend that you take a listen to. Not dissimilar to, things like, I don't know, Craig Leon, but in a sort of less jarring way, if you will. I was listening to the Album Years podcast, Steve Wilson and Tim Bonus. I'm a fan. I've talked about the podcast many times. And in the latest installment, 1968, they was just raving frantically about the Marble Index. So what does Fred do? Plays the Marble Index, because I hadn't played it for ages. This is a twofer with the Marble Index and Desert Shore, but I only really did play the Marble Index this time, which is a very forward-thinking, a very avant rock kind of album. It's amazing arrangements by John Cale. And she plays, it's a very stern kind of recording. She plays the harmonium, which is like this Indian instrument, this sort of pump organ type of thing, which has a very sort of mournful sound, and sings in a pure Teutonic accent, and sounds like the Ice Queen that she was, Nico. I love the Marble Index too, but I didn't remember I did. Thank you, Steve Wilson. If you're watching, Steve, you'll never watch this because obviously I am nobody. But if ever you're watching, love your podcast. So since we're talking about icy soundscape, this is a French installment, an unwittingly French installment, this Revolution. I have a pile of about 10 French records on my knees, and so talking about icy records, is they're no icier than Richard Pena's Iceland. Now, admittedly, I pulled this out because I was chatting with Dom, and he picked this up recently, and I'm like, oh, I haven't played Iceland forever and ever. Iceland is from 1980. It's one of Penas's first solo records under his own name. Obviously, he operated under the name Helden for quite a few years, from the early 70s to the early 80s, I'd say. But then made records under his own name. Penas is Robert Fripp's greatest fan. He loves Robert Fripp, and he loves Robert Wyatt too. So these are two very interesting influences, which can be heard on this record as well, but it's more a Fripp meets Tangerine Dream record, this one. It's very dense and icy and mechanical, it's got this kind of like very dark undertone. And I also pulled out this wonderful album, Fluance, which is also a Richard Penas record. But Fluance is basically Pascal Comlade. Pascal Comlade is a legend on the French underground. As a composer, he plays the piano, he composes. I think you need an entire episode devoted to Pascal Comlade because he's just so important in the scheme of French music, especially progressive music, we'll say. And Richard Penas plays on side A, A Few Reasons to Stay, A Few Reasons to Split. Just beautiful. Again, electronic, repetitive. In fact, side A is more like a minimalist kind of composition, I reckon. It's very, very, very sort of Terry Riley-esque, but with a very repetitive guitar. Just gorgeous stuff. And since we're in progressive electronic, I played this morning. This is Bernard Sjer. Some Death Take Forever. And you can see the Amnesty International kind of logo redesigned for the cover, because I am sure this record is dedicated to Amnesty International. I think. No, I knew that. Again, a record that evokes to me parts French avant-garde progressive music and parts krautrock rock, Tangerine Dream, Klaus Schulze, Harald Grosskopf, all these names are not very far off this, but in a less sort of sugary way, but in a more it's a little bit more abrasive than the Tangerine Dream record. This I think Bernard Sjer was he in the Hypothetical Prophets, or am I thinking of somebody else? In any case, if I'm wrong, doesn't matter. I'm wrong all the time. I should shut the fuck up, I reckon. Here is a record that I pulled out. We were Sunday today. I pulled that again today. Jean-Louis Bucky with Sunflower. I mean, killer from back to front. The cover, the sleeve alone is worth the price of admission. But this is just a killer jazz funk fusion record from 1978 on the fantastic Tréma Records. There we go. So Jean-Louis Bucky plays the keys on this. Really super funky and super off-kilter kind of fusiony, but not cheesy. What I mean by fusiony, not cheesy, I mean the right amount of weather reports. That's what I think I mean. You've got Yannick Top from Magma on bass on this. I mean, the man was a wizard. And if you've ever seen Yannick Top play bass, like on video, it's just incredible. Yannick Top on bass. You've got lots and lots of names. Jacques Dutillé, who plays on this? Yeah. In any case, and what I like the best about this is that cet album est dédié à la mémoire de Trottina, le cochon d'Inde. So the album is dedicated to the memory of Trottina, the guinea pig. I mean, you gotta appreciate the sense of humor these people had. Play Sunflower, you'd love it. It's a Crisco record, really, through and through. This morning I replayed Resus O. Resus O. It's kind of like the middle ground between Soft Machine and Magma. French band. They released this in 1971 or 2. It's funky fusion, but more in the sort of Canterbury prog way, with some touches of rock in the position. You have touches of Henry Cow there, as much as Magma, a little bit of Soft Machine. That's the sort of sonic palette that you've got there. Very highly recommended, and again a killer sleeve to boot. This record took me by surprise again. I mean, I freaking love this record. Jacques Tolo, with its amazing title. Quand le son devient aigu, jeter la girafe à la mer. So when the sound becomes shrill or acute, throw the giraffe in the sea. just why not? This record is sublime. It's, again, we're in that same sonic universe inhabited by people like Robert Wyatt and Soft Machine, and again we were talking about bands like Magma, bands like French bands like Potemkin or bits of gong, bits of like this is it's a melting pot of ideas, but it's very sort of it's very avant prog. It's very jazzy. Dedicated composition by Jacques Thelot, except that one composition is from Don Cherry. Beautiful, beautiful album. Jacques Thelot is a drummer, like Robert Wyatt actually, and I would highly recommend this record. This came out on Futura, which is legendary French label, but this is my reissue on Souffle Continu. Obviously, it's available. A couple of killer numbers on Moshe Naim. This is Moshe Naim. Moshe Naim is a French label, very, very, very important in the scheme of French jazz, kind of underground music in France in the 70s, early 80s. This is Mon Forever. So it features Yoshko Sefer, who was in Magma and then formed Zao, who plays the sax. And you have the amazing Siegfried Kessler, who is a pianist who is German. Well, he's dead now, but German, but lived in France for many, many years. François Méchaly on double bass and Peter Grutz on drums. They're playing Monk with a twist, but still very highly recognizable and super, super well played. Gosh, this is if you're going to do a really good Monk tribute, that is it. It is super duper good. This tribute. It's got Brilliant Corners, Monk's Mood, Ran Midnight, Panonica, just the classics. I mean, if you know the Monk catalog, the Monk canon. A couple more. Also on Moshe Naim, the great François Rabat, French Egyptian double bassist. Played bass with a bow, obviously you can see there. And on here, this is called Multibus, the album. And here he's joined by a percussionist, I think. The percussion is played by various people. Amongst them, Bernard Lubat, Maurice Vander plays the organ on this, the father of Christian Vander. You've got people like Christian Garros on drums there, which is in the Jacques Lussier trio. Just a lot of very, very cool bass numbers augmented by percussion. It's a bit like the great Jean-Charles Capon, Univers Solitude, if you like that record. It's very similar in a way, and it's similar in a way to Henri Texier records. And I'll finish off with this record, which I've been playing this a lot recently. Loving this record. Michel Petrucciani, pianism. So Michel Petrucciani was a late French pianist. He was sort of well known in France, if you will, because of his small stature. He had dwarfism, and he sort of kind of, excuse the pun, but stood out in that way. But I sort of never knew his music. When I grew up, I knew who he was, but jazz wasn't on my radar, and I didn't know how good he was. And I feel sorry now, because when I listen to his records, I think the guy was a genius. This is like a Bill Evans record, but I think it's kind of in parts funkier than a Bill Evans record. It's a trio with Palle Danielson on bass and Elliot Zygmunt on drums, and the drummer makes a lot of ground there. It's very, very good. And this came out, of all things, on Blue Notes. So if you can have a listen to this. I think a lot of people would love this if you like Bill Evans. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this installment, that I haven't talked too much crap. As usual, talk to me. Take care. Love you all.